jointly organized together with the British Embassy in Oslo, the Norwegian Embassy in London, Vestre AS and NBCC. With less than a month to go till the transition period is coming to an end, both businesses and individuals should now in principle be prepared and ready for new regulations. But what will the future bring in regard to the relationship between UK and Norway after the 1st of January? We are lucky to have Ambassador Richard Woods and Ambassador Wegger Strømmen to give updates on where we are today and some future views and thoughts of the relationship between our two nations. We are also equally lucky to have Romy Rawlings, the UK Commercial Director at Vestre AS, who will talk about how they got ready and prepared for a new everyday. But before we start, just a couple of housekeeping rules. Everyone is automatically muted and the camera is turned off during the forum. If you have any questions or comments to our speaker, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. If you are experiencing any technical issues, also use the chat function. We are recording the webinar. Then we are ready to start, and first out is Ambassador Richard Wood. Richard, please.
Hi, thank you very much, Kyrre, and thank you for inviting me, because I think it is important that we talk to businesses, talk to people about the things that are going to change from the 1st of January. I usually start by emphasizing the fact that the UK and Norway have an immensely long relationship together, both people to people, government to government, business to business, and therefore we are used to an evolving relationship, and we are going to make this change in the relationship work. And I think that's really important, but I'm not genuinely trying to underplay the fact that there are going to be differences and that this is a step change in the UK's relationship with the whole of Europe, including Norway. So I think it's useful to run through the governmental process, if you like, so that we know what frameworks it is that we are talking about. If you leave aside slightly the relationship with the European Union, which we can't do entirely, but for the purposes of what's going on with Norway, it's useful to focus down on that. And we are in the middle of negotiating a permanent free trade agreement with Norway, Iceland and Liechtenstein. That's going very well. I don't anticipate that we will have problems, but it won't be ready for the 1st of January. So we are going to have a two-step change process, which is unfortunate, but given the number of countries that we are trying to negotiate with at the same time, perhaps not unsurprising. And I think, you know, what is important to know is that this will not replicate entirely the relationship that we have with Norway now through the EEA, because some things are definitely going to change because of the triangular relationship between UK, Norway and the EU. So we'll try to unpick slightly what some of those differences might be. But I did mention, first of all, that that agreement won't be ready for the 1st of January. And so we are going to move to a bridging process, if you like, we call it, a continuity agreement with Norway and Iceland from the 1st of January. Important for people to know that is, in trade terms, that is just in goods. It does not cover services and investment, although I know both of our countries are making unilateral amendments to make sure that those services too, that trade too, can continue as much as possible. But the goods trades is an important agreement which we are hopefully going to sign next week, and that will ensure that goods, trading goods can continue largely as it does now between the 1st of January and when a new free trade agreement comes into place. So it's definitely worth people taking a look at that when it comes. I don't anticipate a huge change for most companies that deal in trading goods. But for those who are primarily concerned with trade in services or investing, they will need to look at what changes are going to happen. Then I think it is really important that we remember that from the free trade agreement coming in, there will still be changes. There will be a permanent agreement, but we must have a look at exactly what tariffs are involved, what quotas are involved, what arrangements are involved, what is the governance. We shouldn't assume that just because Norway and UK will both be outside the customs union that even borders will be exactly the same as now. They won't. Norwegian companies are used to exporting to the UK and going through UK customs procedures, but some of those procedures will change, and it is absolutely worth keeping in touch with what some of those arrangements are going to be around advance notification, the different kinds of paperwork, the computer systems involved, and to think a little bit about supply chains, some of which will come direct and some of which will go through the territory of the European Union. All of these things are really specific to different kinds of business, and it's very hard for us to give blanket advice, one-size-fits-all advice to people about what they need to look at, because it depends entirely on what your business is between the UK and Norway. Whether it's a trade in goods, whether it's a trade in services, whether it involves the movement of staff and skills, whether it involves hiring people in the other country, that will be specific to each business. And I think it is up to each business to think about how things are going to change for them. Now, some things we know are going to change for everybody. Free movement of people, for example, is something that we all need to think about a bit more carefully. We've taken it for granted over many years, the ability to just go either side of the North Sea without thinking too much about it. That's going to change. Something that is, I haven't seen much of in the media so far, but people really need to bear in mind is that Norway will not admit anybody from the UK after the 1st of January, unless they are resident in Norway or fall into one of the narrow exceptions. This is because the UK is, I've got your attention now, right? This is because the UK is leaving the EEA, and Norway, under COVID restrictions, will only admit EEA citizens. So that is something I think everybody really needs to think about. But once COVID is over, I hope we will be able to settle into a pattern of more predictable movements of people. Certainly the UK is trying to bring in a system which is as much about letting normal business continue as possible, as much of that as possible, as much of the movement of skills, people, culture, all the things that we take for granted, to make that as easy as possible. We will have a points-based immigration system for anybody intending to stay longer than 6 months in the UK. And this is one of the differences that will be between the two countries. If you're coming to Norway from the UK, that limit will be 3 months. If you're going to the UK from Norway, it will be 6 months. And after that, the points-based immigration system will be designed to have special tracks for example, students, a special track for intra-company transfer if you're based in one country and want to transfer staff to another country. And there will be another track for those who wish to settle permanently and work in the UK with a new employer. So people who regularly have movement between the two countries will need to get themselves familiar with the points-based immigration system. One of the tracks I forgot to mention, by the way, is the startup and innovator route through the points-based system, which is specially designed to make it easier for those involved in technology and innovation research to move to the UK from Norway. So we're looking at all of those, and you'll see from what I've set out that we are trying to make it as easy as possible for Norwegian talent to go to the UK, for tech and innovators, for Norwegian students, for Norwegian companies who want to send staff to the UK. All of that is designed to be as easy as possible. I would encourage you also to have a look at the rules and regulations for coming in the opposite direction. Norway doesn't currently think that it has the capacity or ability to make it different for UK citizens than for any other non-Schengen countries. So you will find some of those routes that are easier into the UK, not quite so easy coming into Norway. So people really need to think about how they are going to move people around between the two countries, how they're going to navigate the two new immigration systems. As I mentioned, borders will be quite different, even though Norway was already outside the EU customs union and the UK will be too. The procedures people need to get used to there as well. Transfer of personal data is something that people don't often think about. There are special EU rules which apply to Norway through the EEA for sharing personal data across borders. The EU hasn't yet decided whether it will allow the UK to have an adequacy agreement with the EU, which means that there could be difficulties in transferring personal data across borders, even by email, after the 1st of January. People need to think about that if that is something that their business is regularly involved in. So what I'm trying to do is set out, not to scare people, but to set out a few of the things that we have taken for granted until now, but will be different after the transition period ends, and which I think people can prepare for now and can think about, and how these things apply to their own particular business. There is a lot of help out there, I would say. I think the UK government and the Norwegian government have done an enormous amount of work to prepare for the Brexit transition. The UK, for example, has invested £705 million in new border infrastructure, staffing and technology, and 84 million for customs intermediaries to train them, to try and make sure that we don't get those kinds of blockages at the borders that people fear might happen. We've had some time to think about this. We've had some time to put systems in place. And if people familiarize themselves with what those procedures will be and work with the new infrastructure and the new systems, then we hope that everything will go smoothly. For people who want more information on the whole range of issues that we have, that we are going to be talking about today, gov.uk, you'll not be surprised to hear, has an awful lot of information on the end of the Brexit transition, and you can go and find information there. For citizens, there are pages our Living in Norway guide. NHO here in Oslo has some very good advice on Brexit. We put regularly stuff on our LinkedIn account, as well as our other social media accounts. So what I would say to people is, please don't be scared about what's coming, but do take a responsibility for finding out the information that you need for businesses that you are involved in, because it will be different depending on the kind of business that you do and what is involved in that. And of course, you are free to contact us at any time to get further information. I think I'll leave it there as an introduction. Thanks very much, Kyrre.
And thank you very much, Richard. Ambassador Strømmen, you are next up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kyrre. This is easy because I can more or less agree with everything Richard said. I think he covered both. He covered both ends of this. So there is no purpose in me repeating everything he said. That was a thorough and very elaborate and good run through of the issues that we're facing at the moment. If I could just try then to say that there are a number of issues that we will have to get used to a little bit of a new sort of new situation. But remember, Norway and the UK is so closely linked that and most things will actually not change. And for those things that we need to find a way, we are in the process of finding ways. I mean, if you look at the economic ties between Norway and the UK, the large sectors are covered long time ago. I mean, 83% of our export is oil and gas. That is taken care of. Maritime services is maybe roughly 10%. Our market is liberalized. The UK market is liberalized. So for fisheries is a special case, and I'll say just a little bit in addition to what Richard said about fishery arrangements. That's also covered, and although these things add up to 95% if you add them of at least from our export. That is not everything in an economic relationship, but it proves that most things will run probably reasonably smooth. So these are very serious issues, but you know, they shouldn't get out of proportion. We will find a way. The point of departure is, of course, that we have got used to that the EEA arrangement has catered for a number of things that we actually didn't think much about anymore. I mean, you learned about things in university that you have no automatic right to access on any other state's territory, etc. But the EEA arrangement made it, you didn't think about how these things were regulated. So you just moved between Norway and the UK, you know, seamlessly and without really thinking probably much about why it was possible to do so. So no, the obvious thing that we need in addition to the fields that I mentioned that will go on as before, we need a free trade agreement. And that is coming, as Richard said. It will come, but it will not come in time for to be put into force and implemented by the 1st of January. So we will need this bridge. The bridge is based on the old trade in goods no deal agreement from last year when we were discussing alternative arrangements to the withdrawal agreement. And that will probably cater for the most important things. But again, as Richard said, services and investments is probably not is not covered. So one needs to watch out if one is in those areas. No free trade agreement will fill everything that we were used to under the EEA arrangements. There will be a new reality. For those that come, and the same rules, of course, there won't be the same dynamic implementation of rules that we were used to from the internal market. On the customs, on customs arrangements, I agree with everything, but there will we will come to the UK will, like us, be outside of the customs union. Will have some implications. Our seafood, we're waiting for veterinarian arrangements for border controls from the UK. So the exporters of seafood will have to be put that on the agenda. That is likely to happen. On immigration, of course, there will be new arrangements. We have told everybody over here time and again to register under the settlement scheme. And I think by now 19,000. We think we have 25,000, 26,000 Norwegians in the UK, and 19,000 have registered. So I think, and some of those that have not registered are probably just holding out because they will go for dual citizenship now that Norway has started to allow dual citizenship. That group is quite large, and mostly people that have been here for a long time, and in a way just have been waiting for dual citizenship, and will use that way to solve their settlement status. There will always be someone who falls between the cracks, and ultimately then there will be a problem at the end of the road. But 19,000 is not really such a bad catch. For those that come here after the 1st of January, of course, you'll be subject to the visa arrangements. It will be whatever they are. On the other hand, and on our side in Norway, as Richard was saying again, the COVID restriction is probably the immediate issue. And in the longer run, let me only assure you that we need all the Brits we have in Norway. I think they're about, what is it, 19,000, something like that. And we want you all to stay. You are productive and good inhabitants of Norway. For those that come here as tourists, we hope and I expect very little will change. As always, although we think there will be a mutual arrangement for health assistance for those that are here for a short time, it's always a good idea to have travel insurance. It makes everything easier, and in particular in a slightly floating situation where we're negotiating, have travel insurance. That's always a good thing. There's no signals of any requirement of visa for short-term visits, etc. So that should be no problems. For students also, as we heard, there will probably be separate arrangements. But you need to be more vigilant than before, and just don't take for granted that this is happening. Check what the rules are and apply by them. For instance, I lived in America for 10 years, and the reality, of course, there is very different. So the UK will probably not be at all the same, but if you're a student, you need to make sure that your status is arranged, and you cannot, like now, just take it for granted. There are a number of other fields that are important too with our relations with the UK. Defence and security being an obvious one, and there I really think that the collaboration is at such levels, so details on defence and intelligence, and that is likely to continue. Those things depend on other things than the EEA agreement and the current relationship. And I think those will, many factors in the world just pulls in the direction of this being even more important and even more integrated as we move into 2021 to 2022. So we will speed up. We will hope we will have the free trade agreement and the other. There are a few other also arrangements that we need early in 2021, and we'll build on a long and solid relationship, and solve the issues that, of course, the UK leaving the EU has left us with. I think this is absolutely and totally doable, but it creates some work for some of us, and everybody should take a hard look at some of these information bases that also Richard mentioned. Regjeringen.no in Norway is also a good place where we try to put out anything relevant from our side. And if you add that to the little list that we heard earlier, I think you'll be well served. And we are here to try to both help out and answer any question. Kyrre, I will leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Wegger. Very useful. Now we have some voices from the industry. So Romy, working for the Norwegian outdoor furniture manufacturer, Vestre. She's the UK commercial director, and she would like to give a little bit of information how they got ready. And yeah, I'll leave it to that, Romy, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Kyrre. Yeah, I wouldn't say we're 100% ready. I think part of the frustration is that we're still not entirely sure what we're dealing with. And I think that's the most difficult part. Actually, my history with Vestre is very much tied up with Brexit, because I joined the business in May 2016, and we obviously had the referendum in the June. So almost overnight, I was questioning whether I'd made a good move. we were quoting in euros at the time, and obviously the exchange rate was very severely affected overnight. So there were all kinds of questions and issues actually from 4.5 years ago, and I find it hard to believe that we're still questioning so much even now. And it feels like a game of chicken to me sometimes, that, you know, we're just waiting for the first person to concede something. So I think along with the frustration, there's been disappointment, and actually I have to stop reading sometimes about it because it just makes me angry. But in positive terms, I think what's been said already, we do have a very strong relationship. My CEO's grandfather, who set up the business 73 years ago, he said everything is possible for the Lord Almighty and a mechanic, and he was a mechanic. So we very much have that ethos through the entire business, and believe that we will get through this, we will make it work, it will be okay in time. And I think the biggest frustration is the amount of time and energy that we're having to deflect away from everyday business to admin, really. I think that's difficult, particularly at this moment in time with COVID making things very difficult for everybody. But we are a tiny company, really, in the scheme of things. When we were hearing the levels of export from Norway, I'm not sure what percentage we would be. It would have many, many zeros. We're a very niche business, but we have big aspirations. And we're fortunate, I suppose, in some ways. We actually manufacture in both Norway and Sweden. And so until now and continuing, we export mostly from Sweden, which is where our factory is. So everything will change in terms of the EU from that point onwards. But we do also have the option of exporting directly from Norway after the 1st of January. So the trade arrangements that are being put in place, I think, will be very helpful for us. We have a lot of admin in the background, signing powers of attorney for our logistics people to handle customs for us. My colleagues in logistics are rewriting our ERP system and investigating commodity codes and tariffs on different elements of what we do. And outdoor furniture is maybe more complex than you'd imagine, because ours breaks down into tables and seats, which are under one classification, and then other metal products, which sort of cover a whole host of other things that we do. So there is a lot of work in that, in the background to get that done. But we also export, and have done for some time, to the United States and other countries globally. So actually it's no different, and it's just a matter of being methodical and putting all of that in place now for the UK as well as the other markets. So I think we're as ready as we can be, but that is, you know, a little bit sort of concealed with this veil of we're not really sure what we're dealing with still. So we just keep hoping that something will break in the final few days, but it is obviously leaving it very last minute, and to be fully prepared and know exactly what we're dealing with for the 1st of January, I think we all realise that's practically impossible now. So we're covering our bases as far as we can. I think we're also fortunate that we're not dealing with transfers of people. There are 3 of us here in the UK. We're all UK citizens. We do travel for business back and forth to both Sweden and Norway, and that may well have slightly tricky implications in the future, but it's a fairly minor part of what we do. So I think we're fortunate in many, many ways, and probably mostly, I think, in the fact that we're not trading in perishable goods. I would be, I think, far more worried if I was looking at something that frictionless trade would really have big implications for if that ceases. So we are fortunate. Our products can sit somewhere if they have to for a couple of weeks. That's really not going to make much difference to them or us. So I don't know if that's reassuring in any way. I think it's just a very small microcosm of what we've been dealing with, and probably very similar for many people. But I think as much as anything, we're keeping our fingers crossed that it does all come good in the end, and we're just going to enter a few months of the unknown, really, still. I think that's enough from me, Kyrre.
Thank you very much. It's interesting for people to listen to the issues that other people have. So thank you very much for that. We have a couple of questions here that we could go on now. The first one from Philip Rambeck. Both UK and Norwegian companies have been the beneficiaries of crucial funding through EU's 80 billion research and innovation program, Horizon 2020. Now that Horizon 2020 is being replaced by the Horizon Europe program, are there thoughts or plans for parallel programs, grants, to continue to foster research and innovation between Norwegian and British companies? I don't know who want to answer that. Richard, you are nodding.
Yeah, I'm happy to have a go at that. I mean, we're still discussing with the EU possible membership of Horizon Europe in the same way that Norway is a member of Horizon Europe without being a member of the EU. That, you know, we don't have an answer from the EU on whether that will be allowed. So we're not waiting just for that. We're also talking to a bunch of people in Oslo about partnerships that will allow us to continue to do joint research, which has been so profitable. Norway is one of our largest research partners, believe it or not, and the UK is the largest researcher on Arctic issues, for example, after the US. So we've had a long history of very fruitful research, and we don't want to let that go. So I talk regularly to Forskningsrådet and to the Nordic Research Council and others about how we are going to structure continuation of joint research after from next year. So I'm confident that we will find ways to keep it going, regardless of the outcome of talks with the EU about whether we are allowed to join Horizon Europe or not.
Any additions from Ambassador Strømmen?
Yeah, now we're waiting to see to see how the Brits arrange themselves with Horizon. I don't think we have any plan for any kind of parallel system with the UK, but we're waiting for the arrangements that you know, we are outside of the European Union. We participate in these things, and we're waiting for really for Britain to have a similar kind of system. The research relationship is very strong and should be encouraged as a massively and good contributor to the bilateral relations.
That's reassuring. Thank you very much. Next question is from Wei Wu. I'm working in Norway, but I am a citizen outside of EEA. I'm going to the UK to conduct research from my work from January. During COVID, it is crucial to have access to NHS. Norwegian citizens can arrive in the UK before 11 p.m. 31st of December 2020 to apply for settlement scheme and be covered by NHS. But for me, I must have a stay longer than 6 months in order to pay for NHS. Are there any changes that I should pay attention to? And the travel insurance is invalid during COVID.
Well, as far as I know, there are no changes to entitlement to NHS services for non-EEA citizens. I mean, that slightly depends if you're a permanent resident of Norway as a non-EEA citizen or not, but in general, non-EEA arrangements for access to healthcare in the UK won't change. And I think you're absolutely right about COVID and travel. People should absolutely look at their own travel insurance that they have, because coverage, I've heard, under some policies is still there, but not under others. And certainly for tourism, that probably wouldn't be covered. But if you have a work policy, a work travel policy insurance, and you are required to travel for work, that could still be valid. But it's necessary to have a look at individual circumstances. Yes, and my comments on travel insurance was, of course, when
when we don't advise people not to travel, because at the moment we do. I was thinking of the future, with hopefully after COVID, that you could.
Even quiet. I think he froze here. Okay, another question while we're waiting for the technical problem to be solved. This is from Anonymous. Visa application. Major international company utilizing staff to work cross-border on a regular basis, e.g. UK staff working ad hoc offshore, Norway rota. Will they have to apply for visa, and what would be the visa application timeline? Will UK be category 3 visa, 3 to 6 month application time for working in Norway for the first part of 2021? Similar for Norway staff working offshore UK continental shelf.
I think we've lost Wegger, so I sadly get to answer that one a bit. I think the first part of the question sounded to me like it was about the Norwegian visa application process, which obviously I can't really answer for, but certainly coming into the UK, we are acutely aware of the offshore sector and the very specific needs that it has. It's an important industry in both countries. There is a symbiotic relationship almost between particularly Aberdeen and Stavanger, but also the industries in general. So we are definitely looking at that, and we have talked to the Home Office about that, and we've talked to the industry about that. And I think you know, we'll have details soon about how exactly to apply for short-term business visas, which is traveling for a few days. There will be separate things for intercompany transfers. And as I mentioned during my introduction, we are looking to make that extremely easy for companies to make those arrangements administratively to take staff from one base to another to work. But I'm afraid I don't have clear details. We can absolutely get them for you if you leave a message on our Facebook page with the exact details you're looking for. We will endeavor to get back to you.
Wegger, you didn't hear this question, did you?
No, I didn't hear this question. I was somebody threw me out. I don't know what happened, but I'm here now.
Yeah. It was a visa application and for staff working ad hoc offshore. If there is any application process for offshore staff. You're on mute. Yeah.
No, I have to look into that. I'm not able to answer that straight off the cuff. But send us an email or an inquiry, and we'll get an authoritative answer. But I don't dare to, off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. Another one here, the last question now. I am a beneficiary of both ERC and Erasmus+. Will the UK continue in participating in Erasmus+?
See my answer for Horizon. This is what we used to call pay-to-play programs of the EU, where you don't have to be a member of the EU, as Norway has itself made use of these programs, but which we do need the permission of the EU to join and to work out what the arrangements would be. So on the Horizon example, you know, there's a huge amount of money that is spent on research programs and allocated, and Norway has some ability to influence the framework program of Horizon. There are similar issues with Erasmus. Do you get as much as you get out? What are the limitations for non-members? And we're discussing all of these things with the EU. Clearly, if you follow the mantra of we're leaving the EU but not leaving Europe, we want to stay part. We are a European country with European cultural values, and we want to stay a part of as many of these cross-border schemes as we can, because they are mutually beneficial. But it does require us to negotiate with the EU on what exactly the frameworks of those of that participation is. So we'd like to be in both Erasmus and Horizon Europe, but we haven't managed to secure agreement for that yet.
Okay, thank you very much. A question from Ken Skorbrevik. What is the situation with regard to the Lugano Convention after Brexit?
The UK is seeking to be a full member of the Lugano Convention. We need the permission of all other participants in that to be able to join as a full member. Funnily enough, I was having a discussion this morning with the Justice Department in Oslo about whether Norway would give its consent for us to become a full member of Lugano, and we are trying to make sure that that happens. In the case that it doesn't, or it doesn't happen in time, I last week or the week before signed an agreement with the Justice Minister to make sure that we can continue elements of that cooperation until we become a full member of Lugano. So either way, we hope that the practical issues raised are covered, whether we get to be a member of Lugano on the 1st of January or slightly afterwards.
Yeah, and this agreement from our side doesn't need to go to Parliament, so it should be all right. I mean, the temporary one. So the arrangements there are proper and should cover the issue we just I think we're just waiting, and then all this is published. You'll find them on at regjeringen.no.
Thank you very much. That was all questions. So and everyone is happy with the answers. I have not had any other feedback. So just before we round off, there is, if someone still have questions, and I presume so, the British government is organizing an Industry Day readiness seminar on the 9th of December. And more details about that can be found on the various web pages to the government, UK, and also on NBCC's homepage. If you have problem, send us an email and we'll forward you details about it.
Can I just say, Kyrre, it's definitely worth joining that, because there are people far more expert than I am in detailed issues around customs and many of the other issues that people have raised here. The real experts will be there and ready to answer questions.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you for the panel, Richard, Wegger, and Romy. Sorry, there were no questions for you, Romy. But
it's fine. I'm very happy.
And thanks to all that participated. And Merry Christmas. It's time to say very soon. So have a great week, and we will catch up in the new year. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye now.